Skeletal system. Head and neck. The skeletal system of the head and neck plays an important role in protecting the brain, and all of its attachments, that get sent throughout the rest of the body. The head and neck make up the top portion of the axial skeleton. The skull is the bony section of the head and consists of cranium and facial bones. The skull encases and protects the brain, houses the brain senses, provides attachments for muscles of the head and neck, and helps to form the first portions of the respiratory and digestive tracts. Spine. Stretching down the midline of the trunk from the base of the skull to the coccyx, the spine plays an extremely important role in our bodies, as it supports the upper body's weight, provides posture while allowing for movement and flexibility, and protects the spinal cord. Chest and upper back. The skeletal system of the upper abdomen surrounds important organs such as the heart, lungs, and others above the diaphragm. The portion of the spine in the upper abdomen is made up of bones, called the thoracic vertebrae. These are the 12 vertebrae in the chest area. They have facets on the sides of their bodies, that join with the ribs. Shoulder joint. The shoulder joint is actually made up of two separate joints: the goniohumeral or shoulder joint, which is formed by the articulation of the rounded head of the humerus, or upper arm bone, into a cup-like depression of the scapula, called the glenoid fossa. The second is called the acromoclavicular joint, and is formed by an articulation of the lateral clavicle with the acromion process of the scapula. Humerus. The humerus is the bone of the upper arm. The smooth, dome-shaped head of the bone lies at an angle to the shaft, and fits into a shallow socket of the scapula, shoulder blade to form the shoulder joint. Below the head, the bone narrows to form a cylindrical shaft. It flattens and widens at the lower end. At its base, it joins with the bones of the lower arm, the ulna and radius, to make up the elbow. Radius. The radius is the shorter of the two long bones of the forearm. The other is the ulna. The radius is the bone on the thumb side of the arm. The shaft of the radius has a broad base, that joins the lower end of the ulna and the upper bones of the wrist at a large process called the radial styloid. The disc-shaped head of the radius, which is smaller than the base, joins the lower end of the humerus bone in the upper arm to form the elbow joint. Ulna. The ulna is the longer of the two bones of the forearm, the other being the radius. When the palm faces forward, the ulna is the inner bone, the one nearest the body, running down the forearm parallel to the radius. The upper end joins with the radius and extends into a rounded projection that fits around the lower end of the humerus, the upper arm bone, to form the elbow joint. The lower end of the ulna is rounded, and forms a joint with the wrist bones and lower end of the radius. Hand and wrist bones. The hand and wrist bones allow movement, so that the body can manipulate objects. On the radial shaft of the smaller forearm bone, just below its head, is a process called the radial tuberosity. It serves to attach the biceps brachii muscle, which bends the arm at the elbow. At the lower end of the radius, a lateral styloid process provides attachments for the palmar radiocarpal ligament, on the palm of the hand, and the dorsal radiocarpal ligament, on the back of the hand from the radius into the wrist. Pelvis and lower back. The skeletal system of the lower abdomen, including the pelvis, helps protect the spinal cord, digestive and urogenital systems, and other internal organs such as the bladder, rectum, and in women, the uterus. The skeletal system of the lower abdomen includes the 5 lumbar vertebrae in the small of the back. These vertebrae support more weight than the vertebrae above them. At the base of the lower spine is a large triangular bone called the sacrum. Its narrow lower part joins the coccyx, or tailbone. The sides of the sacrum are connected to the iliums, the largest bones forming the pelvis. The iliac crest forms the prominence of the hip. The pelvis is a ring of bones in the lower trunk of the body, which is bounded by the coccyx, tailbone, and the hip bones. The pelvis is made up of 3 hip bones, which are joined by rigid sacroiliac joints to the sacrum at the back. The hip bones curve forward to join the pubic symphysis at the front. It is significant during childbirth, as it is capable of stretching to permit delivery. Leg and foot. The skeletal system of the lower extremities includes the legs, feet and toes. This subsystem supports the muscles that help with running, walking, standing and more. The weight of the body is transmitted to the legs through the pelvic girdle at sacroiliac joints. These joints, along with the ligaments attached to them, anchor the lower limbs to the axial skeleton. Tibia. The tibia is the inner and thicker of the two long bones in the lower leg. It is also called the shin bone. Its upper end is expanded into medial and lateral condyles, which have concave surfaces and unite with the condyles of the femur. The tibia is the supporting bone of the lower leg and runs parallel to the other, smaller bone, the fibula to which it is attached by ligaments. The front of the tibia, or tibial tuberosity, lies just below the skin and can easily be felt. Fibula. The fibula is the outer and thinner of the two long bones of the lower leg. It is much narrower than the other bone, the shin, to which it runs parallel and to which it is attached at both ends by ligaments. The upper end of the fibula does not reach the knee, but the lower end descends below the shin and forms part of the ankle. Its main function is to provide attachment for muscles. It doesn't give much support or strength to the leg, which explains why the bone can safely be used for grafting onto other bones in the body. Ankle and foot bones. The ankle and foot bones begin at the end of the tibia and fibula, at a synovial hinge joint. The lateral malleolus is joined to the ankle by the anterior talofibular ligaments, and the posterior talofibular ligaments. These ligaments form a prominence on the side of the ankle,